Welcome to the PropTech Podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to grow and create a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. The aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. And this episode is one for the commercial real estate agents out there, in particular in the retail space. My guest in this episode is Simon Fonteyn, Managing Director of LeaseInfo, which specialises in retail space data. They have a new product called Accurait, which extracts retail lease data from contracts and structures it so that it's completely searchable, removing the need to laboriously search through contracts manually. It's tech they've developed with the CSIRO, so here to tell us all about it, Simon Fonteyn, welcome to the PropTech Podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So Simon, tell us what your elevator pitch is.
Well, Kylie, I guess I've been in the property sector for a long time, specifically commercial. Mm-hmm. And originally I created LeaseInfo Group to level the playing field between landlords and tenants. And the business has grown exponentially from there. Given COVID, we've developed also a multitude of products which helps tenants and landlords. And we've moved into a space which could probably be described as the digitisation of commercial leases. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this has really been necessitated by a number of factors. One of them is people working more and more online. There's also a global accounting standard change called IFRS 16, which requires leases to be capitalised on your balance sheet, mm-hmm. which requires the data from leases to be sort of talking to computers. Yes. So it's called creating structured data. Mm-hmm. So I guess the bottom line is we're trying to create a platform to help people manage, digitise and do their negotiations all in one spot.
So, Simon, tell me about Accurait, this new product that you've developed.
Sure. So Accurait is a joint venture between us and CSIRO's Data61. Mm-hmm. So we've created the first machine learning algorithms that automates the reading of commercial leases and puts the data from leases, bookmarks it from where it is in the document, and creates a link to a searchable database. So the problem it solves is that data extraction from leases is laborious, time-consuming, error-prone, and if gotten wrong, costs a lot of money in terms of miscalculations. And it's also very difficult to manage a portfolio if all your leases are in a drawer in hard copy. Mm-hmm. So it creates a structured data set out of unstructured information.
So Simon, my background's in the residential space rather than commercial, and you said before that in commercial you need to basically have in the residential space you would fill in a form and you would put that number in as to what the amount was. How is it different in commercial? Well,
there's a few differences. The lease contracts in commercial are much more complex than residential, so they deal with a multitude of factors.
And much less standardised, I imagine, too.
Exactly. Yep. So they're much less homogeneous. Yep. And residential contracts aren't required to go on balance sheet because they're typically less than 1 year. Yep. So it's really more than 1 year is where leases have to be capitalised. Mm-hmm. So there are significant differences between residential and commercial. Also, it's much more difficult to create this product for commercial because there's so many different types of leases in commercial. There's retail, office, industrial, self-storage, potentially hotels as well. So there's a multitude of different lease types.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you. Thanks for explaining that. So why are these issues problems in the industry right now?
Well, I mean, the IFRS 16, which is a global accounting standard, which came in January 19, have sort of started this process. Mm-hmm. However, COVID-19 has sort of accelerated it because a lot of teams are now working from home, or they're working between home and office. And a lot of the actual information about the lease is contained in hard copy PDFs, or they might be even contained in a drawer somewhere. It's very hard for teams to manage that information if it's not in a searchable database and it's not actually talking to other systems. And if you think about it, in retail at least, rent is your second largest component. And for a lot of the managers are forever going back to their lease documents and trying to find out what their obligations are, particularly around COVID. There's all these sort of obligations, this extraordinary time. So not having that information in structured formats creating a lot of problems for managers. So that's why we're seeing quite an uptake in interest in the Accurait platform, in line with the broad digitisation mandate, which is, not just in our industry, but in a lot of industries.
Right. And so how does it work? You upload your lease and the bot will scan it and start to suck the data out, or? Yeah,
correct. So you can bulk upload. You bulk upload. You can do it one at a time, or you can do it overnight. Mm-hmm. And it basically uses the AI to process the key information. It puts it in a pane that shows ready for someone to approve. And the beauty about it is it takes the information and bookmarks where it found it, so it's very easy to verify. And once it's locked in, that position is forever locked, so that you can cross-reference to databases, you can bring up snippets and searches. So it creates a really easy and nice summary, and it manages also what they call the parent-child relationship in leases. So in commercial, as opposed to residential, there's quite a lot of complexity. So you may have several documents involved in a lease. So you might have an agreement to lease, a fit-out deed, a variation, and all these documents combined form your total agreement. So it really manages that complexity. And the other module that we've just created, which was a real game changer for a lot of our clients, is we have also added something called an invoice checker. So it scans the invoice in PDF, takes the amount that the landlord or the tenant is saying that they have to pay, and compares it against the contract. So you have the ability to verify against contract on a continual basis. And that's very cool, because it just saves a lot of time and creates and solves this problem of errors being raised. I mean, you would be surprised how many errors there are in commercial real estate. It's phenomenal.
I can only imagine. So that's extremely cool, and I guess it's a great use of the AI too.
Yeah, it is, and the AI is the one area that we're in is called natural language processing, which is probably the most difficult of all types of AI. They talk about bots, and they're talking about facial recognition. Natural language processing is really the most difficult part, because it's very new. And so we've been working very hard with the CSIRO. It's taken us quite a long time to get this right. But once it's right, the opportunities are enormous. in terms of saving time. There's also so many other things that you can do, like there's opportunities to link to voice recognition. Like Siri, you can ask for, show me all the leases that are between X and Y. So there's lots of opportunities to use that data, as well as using the metadata that you actually collect, on trends and information about where the market's going. So there's really a lot of opportunity to create further products once you've got a good core product.
Yeah, cool. So, is there much natural language, though, in a commercial lease, or is it all very legalese?
Well, that's just the term they use. It's for the broad natural. There's no natural language, but that's just what they use.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking. A big hey to all the lawyers out there. So tell me a little bit about how you guys have found, it's interesting that you're launching this product, as we're coming through COVID, because COVID and lockdown has really hit the retail industry hard. We're not allowed to go shopping, it's like one of the, it's we're not really supposed to be gathering anywhere. So what's that been like?
Well, it's been challenging. Our core business, which is the retail data business, has been affected because there's less retailers around. So it has been challenging. I guess we didn't launch it now. We've already launched it. We launched the product in end of 2018. So it's got quite a few clients already on it. Mm-hmm. However, it's challenging environment at the moment. We are seeing an uptake from other users, not just retail. So childcare is definitely an area of interest. Medical, non-retail, anything with a commercial lease is a target market for us. Mm-hmm. But the core business, which is retail, is definitely challenging. However, having said that, the bigger clients are actually the ones that need this the most, because they've got so many leases to process, and being able to manage it, particularly remotely, is becoming increasingly important for these retailers. So we see there's definitely an opportunity. The old saying, never waste a crisis. Yes. So we're seeing this as an opportunity which should accelerate, if anything, demand for this product.
So I imagine too that if I'm a retailer, I'd really want to be using a product like this so that I can make sure I'm not being overcharged, or to work out what my rights are inside my contract quickly, that I can go to my landlord or my agent with to negotiate. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And also to making sure that your lease management system, your property management system is billing the right amounts. The whole ecosystem all is predicated on having the right information.
And now let's hear a word from our sponsors. For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, Direct Connect are there to support your real estate business with competitive rewards for every successful connection, plus an industry-leading rewards program. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers will be connected on the day they move in. Direct Connect offers a range of market-leading suppliers, and Direct Connect has now made it even easier than ever to send connections, directly integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. So in just a few clicks while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. So how big's the market for it. And are your clients landlords or are your clients property managers or both? Yeah, okay.
We work both. So, we have both. We have more tenants than landlords, as you'd expect, because there are more. But yeah, we work with both, and they're both using the system and one is the mirror of the other. How big's the market? Well, the market for commercial in Australia is significant. If that includes office, industrial, retail, you could also add in other special types of uses, medical or self-storage, hotels. It's a significant market, and we don't have any natural competitors in this space in Australia.
Right.
So we sort of got it. Really, the market is wide open. There are players internationally who do this, but they haven't entered the Australian market yet. So we see there's a really good opportunity to penetrate the market and have that first mover advantage. And that's what we're working on.
Okay. And so is there opportunity for you guys overseas as well, like for exporting?
Yeah, there definitely is. We already have a couple of international clients on it. Believe it or not, we've got a client in Fiji. So, as long as the lease is in English, we can work with any type of lease that's in English. We've got a few clients who've got sites in Singapore and New Zealand, Hong Kong. So we've experimented with those leases. It all works.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's definitely a good market for it. But our strategy is really to work on the Australian market first and really make sure that we're the leader in that space before we start going overseas. So, it's really, let's get the domestic market sorted first, and then we will move up to that.
Okay. So tell me a little, so what's the business model? Is it subscription or is it per property, or what's the
business model is software as a service.
Yep.
So it's a subscription model based upon the number of sites that you load.
Right.
So it's got volume breaks for, the more you load, that the unit price comes down. But it's really a software as a service, because there is a service component to it. We do offer various levels of service. We have like the gold standard service where we do all the checking and inputting and making sure that's all right down to like what we call bronze, where the client does everything themselves and they're responsible for checking, uploading. We have our own software developers. We have our own service team. So we have office in Sydney and office in Melbourne and in the Philippines as well.
Fantastic. And so what was it like to work with the CSIRO? How did that come about?
It came about when we got a grant from the government under what's called SME Kickstart. So we got a grant to explore building this like a prototype, because our biggest challenge running a data business is exactly what our clients face. We need to abstract information from leases and put it in a database. So the need grew from our own internal need. And then clients were coming to us and saying, look, can you provide this service? This is something that we need ourselves. So we started to experiment with different technologies about how we could automate this process. And then we discovered that there is a grant available, so we applied for it. We built a prototype and we received the grant, and then the federal government put us into this program which requires a sort of research organisation, and you can pick the research organisation. We picked the CSIRO, Data 61, because they were the best in machine learning or natural language processing. So they have an expertise in that area. And so that's how it all started, working with Data 61. And we've also received other grants from the federal government we received money from the state government. We won 2 awards. So we've received substantial grant money to build the algorithm on top of the R&D funds that we've got. So there's been significant government help, which is fantastic. And I found the process. Well, we've really learnt a lot. We sort of approached it sort of in a way that was much more from an old school software background. So we've had to relearn the rules of working with AI. Hasn't been without its challenges. We've certainly learnt a lot. And we've come out the other end with a product which, I'm really proud of. It's really cutting edge. So, it's been good.
So tell me a little bit about, so you've used mostly grant money plus your own R&D funds to grow the business or to expand the product?
Yeah, well, we've used a combination of all those. So we've used the R&D grant, the grant money, free cash from our existing business, a bit of directors' money. So it's all been self-funded to date.
So what would your advice be to other prop techs out there who are thinking of going after grants? What are your tips?
I think the CSIRO and the SME Connect sector is really undervalued and not really used. I think there's huge opportunities for SMEs and other prop tech players to really make this avail themselves of what's out there. Because there's a lot, and there's so many opportunities. The world's full of problems which need to be sorted, and there's so many technologies available and so many great ideas from experts who run their own business. They're usually they're really experts, and they know how to solve problems, but they may not know how to solve it using the latest technologies. And this is where that nexus between experts, the government, and also research scientists can come in. So my advice is to really look around, make yourself research what grants are available. There's a lot of grants available. If you can't do it yourself, get a consultant. There are lots of consultants out there, but really look at what's available because there's a lot of money available. I thoroughly recommend it.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about the history of LeaseInfo. How long have you been going for?
Well, LeaseInfo started in 2005. So it's an old established business.
Old school.
So we've been around for a long time. So we've had experience in commercialising products before, but we just didn't have experience in commercialising AI. But the process of commercialisation is effectively the same. It's exactly the same process. Build an MVP, do your split testing, beta testing, A, B. So it's the same sort of cycle. It's just using different technologies. So the 2005 we started LeaseInfo. I had a background in commercial real estate, saw the need for transparency in the retail market, and started it on my own. I did have a VC partner initially, but that didn't work out, so we sort of bought that back. And we've sort of been going it alone since then, really bootstrapping it. Hasn't been easy, but there's definitely advantages and disadvantages of bootstrapping. The main advantage of bootstrapping is that you can keep control and you can really protect your equity. The downside of bootstrapping is it takes a lot longer, and you really are looking for either patient capital, or you're looking at owner sort of funded investment, because it's not something that you can do quickly. So, I guess it's the old way of building a business as opposed to the modern way, which uses, equity and private capital and VC, etc. So it sort of, worked for me. But, there's swings and roundabouts, I guess.
Yeah, no, look, I think there's pros and cons to every way that you do it. And certainly Nathan and I, my co-founder, we bootstrapped as best we could. So, which made it a lot easier when it came time to sell, because we didn't have a lot of, there was only the two of us on the share register. So there's pros and cons with both ways. So what has been some of what's been the growth trajectory of LeaseInfo? Like, what's some of the highlights or things the key learnings that you've had at a couple of stages that made you go, whoa, okay, course correct there?
It's a good question. The sector that we're in is very dynamic, and so retail by and large, from 2005 up until, say, 2008, we had a really good run. So we were growing very, very quickly. And then the GFC hit. And that really, for 2 years, we got no growth whatsoever. So I guess that was our first lesson, that you grow, but then you can sort of hit a situation like now where there's an external shock and you have to basically pivot. And the GFC was our first pivot point where we really started to need to diversify our income. So we couldn't just rely on one income source. So we started to diversify our income, diversify our client base, refine our business model. So that was, I guess, the first big aha moment. Is, hey, there's external shocks that happen, and I guess a lot of the time in small business, you sort of tend to ride the bumps, and you feel the bumps a lot more when there's a massive shock like this. The second thing I've learned is if you're a business, you need to have a certain level of liquidity. You can't just be running on, working capital that doesn't exist.
Yep.
So you need to have a certain level of liquidity to be able to handle shocks.
Yep.
So I guess that's another factor that I've learned. Probably the thing that let's just keep going with the story. So after 2009, actually retail rebounded and started to rebound strongly. And again, there was another growth phase, and we started to grow again. We changed a bit of our business model to capture other types of growth. We had an opportunity to pivot away from a certain technology that we built, and that was probably one of my big regrets, that we didn't do it when we had the opportunity to. So, we've sort of stuck with the same technology, because it's a big call to do a rewrite.
Yep.
But so I guess one of the lessons is when you choose a technology platform, you really need to choose carefully and choose really think it through, because it's not just the technology, but it's more about who can support it. What sort of programmers are around. That sounds like an obvious thing, but
well, no, not when you go back that. I mean, look, it's stuff that's obvious in 2020, looking back, 3 or 5 years. But I know even from my time at CoreLogic, big legacy platforms everywhere, but everyone had legacy because legacy was the way that you built stuff until the cloud turned up, wasn't it?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's much harder to retrofit stuff when you've got a legacy system, and it takes a lot of courage to to go, hold on, I'm going to really bite the bullet here and reinvest. But, it does lead to problems over time.
As a real estate agent, you know you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial. Or click the link in our show notes. So Simon, tell me about some of the big changes you've seen in the commercial real estate industry over that time. Like what are some of like the 3 or 4 kind of things that you've seen change as commercial real estate and retail real estate has or hasn't moved towards better technology?
Yeah, well, let's talk about retail, because I'll talk about retail first. So retail has already been in a structural change for the last decade. And the obvious changes are the rise of online or omni-channel. That's been probably one of the biggest changes, starting in the turn of the decade of 2010, you might have had like 4% or less of sales online. Fast forward to 2020 and you're now in the mid-teens of online penetration. So that's been a major change. We've also seen a lot of international retailers come into the Australian market, and they've pinched a lot of market share off your locals. So if you think about the Zara's, Uniqlo's, Topshop, and then there's been a few entrants that have failed when they've come here, for example, like Forever New, Debenhams. There's been a lot of change in the way the dynamics of the industry have evolved. And on the supply side, you've had shopping centres really expanding their footprint significantly. They've outstripped demand by, every year. So you've got a situation where supply has started to get ahead of demand. We've also had aggressive rental growth demanded by the landlords. So there's been a lot of structural and cyclical changes in the retail industry, which has to some extent helped us because people are scrutinising their rents more and more. So it's keeping up with that's been a significant challenge. But I guess that's our existence. That's the reason we exist. The office side, we don't really do that much on the market side. There are players like, for example, you mentioned CoreLogic. They have a platform that does the RP data, the commercial leasing side, and industrial. We've done a little bit. But so our main focus has been on, in terms of data, has been on the retail side, and that's where we're known for. Going forward, though, there's significant structural changes. I've mentioned retail. Retail is the structural changes are increasing at an increasing rate. So there was already turbulence pre-COVID. Yep. That's pretty much been exacerbated by, this pandemic. So it's really been an inflection point, and the market's changing and significantly correcting. Office, I expect to also have significant corrections, just by the way that businesses are adjusting to their workflow and workforce management. and that's impacting on the demand for office space. And I see that as a forever changed model. That the demand for office is going to change, and I guess that one of the big winners will probably be industrial, where logistics, as a result of more transactions doing online and fulfillment centres to meet that demand. So there's structural winners and losers as a result of this COVID period. But the property industry at the moment is and will be forever changed as a result, not just here but globally.
Yeah. And in terms of our shopping centres and how do you think they're going to change as we come through this? Obviously, we're going to see a lot more vacancies for an extended period, I imagine.
Well, I mean, there's so many, there's different, for example, the anchors, the traditional anchors of shopping centres are already starting to indicate they're closing. Think about Target. They've already announced, wholesale closures. Then you've got the issue of the department stores. In America, there's been several that have filed for Chapter 11, and they probably may or may not come back. In Australia, there's Myer and DJs, which have very challenged business models, and what happens to that space. And then you have a whole lot of specialty stores which have challenged business models, so fashion, parts of maybe the food sector. So there's a lot of restructuring that needs to happen as a result of this. So vacancies, I think, will be one issue, but a resetting of rents is really going to be very, very critical because, as I mentioned, rents have been running ahead of retail sales growth for the last decade. So corrections there are inevitable. And leasing contracts, leasing structures, the footprints of retailers, how much space do they need in a post-COVID world, with omni-channel and with their supply chains being affected. So the whole retail model is affected, right from supply chain up to storefront.
Yep. Yeah. And so what does that mean that the future looks like for your business, for LeaseInfo and Accurait?
Well, I guess we've learned from the past that we need to continue to diversify. So this has been really our strategy to have. We've now got four, I guess, pillars of our business. We've got the lease data, which provides the information on what's happening in the market. When we've got the Accurait system, which digitises the lease. We have a lease management software platform called My Portfolio, which basically manages the leases, does your critical date reminders, manages your IFRS 16 or lease accounting. So we have that module, and the last module is the consulting and the valuation work, which we continue to do. So I guess we're well diversified in terms of our business, and the four sort of counteract each other. I think the future for us looks like there's going to be significant opportunities with Accurait. Accurate's probably going to be Accurait and My Portfolio are going to be the growth engines of our business. And also opportunities for expansion into other markets and, as you mentioned, expansion overseas. All that is predicated on, the ability for a business like ours to execute. So, execution risk is actually a very, very challenging, particularly when you've got a business like ours, which has got multi-disciplines. So you've really got to be able to not only have great technology, but you've got to execute really, really well. And you need a really diversified skill base. to do it. So you've got, in our business, we've got tech people, we've got lease experts, we've got lease accounting experts, and we've also got valuers and property consultants. So putting that all together, a multidisciplinary team, that all works together, it's I guess our biggest challenge, to make that all come together. And it's there's great opportunities, but it's sort of a new world order of blending different skills together into one product.
Yeah, I guess collaboration across different expertise areas is one of the key challenges that we all face in any kind of business at the moment, because we're moving away from that single discipline kind of area. Absolutely, we are. We're moving away to collaboration, and it's getting more difficult to do remotely. It's challenging. Yeah. Well, look, Simon, it's been absolutely fascinating to talk to you about the commercial space. I mean, I guess one of the things I'm hearing, though, is that in the face of all of this challenge and the impact of COVID, certainly both commercial tenants and commercial landlords are really going to need to be extracting as much data out of their contracts and keeping on top of their contracts as much as they can. So best of luck with LeaseInfo and Accurait. Thank you so much. It's been an honour, and I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted. Sounds great. We'll put some links to your businesses in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Yep, fantastic. Thank you so much. Great. Thanks for your time. So that was Simon Fonteyn from LeaseInfo talking about Accurait. It's one of our first commercial real estate innovations that we've had on the show, and I'd love to feature more. So if you're in the space, reach out and let me know what you're working on. Commercial rental contracts are a lot more bespoke than the residential space, so it's great to see an innovation that allows the pertinent information to be pulled out quickly and repackaged into structured data. And as you all know, I do love structured data and its power to help our businesses make better decisions. And with COVID-19 hitting the retail sector particularly hard, I can imagine that this is a valuable innovation for those retailers negotiating with landlords, while it'll also help landlords manage their contracts more accurately and fairly. So now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech Podcast, we would love you to tell your friends or drop me a line either via email at kylie@realcontent.guru, on LinkedIn, or my Facebook page. And you can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, and about 5 other platforms. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Smidge Wines, because everyone deserves a smidge, Direct Connect, making moving easy, and Home Prezzo, now part of ActivePipe, turning your data into amazing marketing content. And if you'd like to find out more about the Australian PropTech industry, join the PropTech Association Australia. There's links to all of our supporters in the show notes. Thanks, everyone. Until next week, keep on PropTeching.